Hi, welcome to another episode of Look Ma No Hands. My name is Linda, and on my channel I talk about all my hobbies, which include crochet, painting, reading, watching things on TV and in the movie theaters. So yeah, that's just me in a nutshell. I guess I'll dive right into what I'm wearing this week. Again, not crochet, but it is kind of sort of hobby related. I'm always looking for little hacks here and there to make my self-care process a little easier. I'm getting kind of tired of wearing the same old headbands over and over, so I decided to try to figure out some way that I can use the bandanas that I have to kind of make them into headbands. I can't tie them onto myself just using like a knot or whatever, but I figured out that if I take an elastic hair tie and tie the bandana onto the hair tie, it gives a little bit of stretchiness to the band so that I can kind of slide it on and off once it's already been tied onto the elastic. So that's what I'm wearing to keep my hair back out of my face today. My hair is getting quite a bit longer. I'm in the process of growing it out, so we'll see if I can get it back to the super long length that it was 2 years ago before I decided to hack it all away. Yeah, so I have tons of these bandana style like squares, I guess you could say, that I even kind of used it like instead of rolling it up to make it like a flat band, I had it tied back the other day so that it was kind of like the old kerchief style headband type of deal. So yeah, just a fun, funky summer way to style back my hair and kind of keep it from flying everywhere. But this week I have been working quite a bit on various crochet projects. I got a little bit tired of working on the circle to square blanket that I'm working on. The monotony of that one is starting to get to me. I really want to finish it, so I got another 15 squares completed, which leaves me to finish 30 more, which I might finish another 15 this week, I'm not sure. But I decided to take a short break from that and work on making some cotton like tote bags or purses or beach bags, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of thinking beach because it's summertime and all of that. But I saw the neat design where you take a rectangle that measures 30 inches by 10 inches, and then you do like this origami fold to it and turn it into a bag. So I decided to give that a go. Now, mind you, you really have to make sure that you have those dimensions where the length and width are such that when you fold it, it turns into a bag. Now, I am bad and I did not check my gauge when I first started. I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. I didn't quite hit 30 inches. It was like 33-ish inches. So when I was measuring the other direction, I didn't account for those extra inches that my bad gauge came out to be. What I should have done is made it 33 by 11, which I guess would have kind of sort of worked out okay. Not quite. So when I got ready to do the folding portion of the project, my piece was not folding properly, so I had to finagle a little bit to try and get something workable, and I did. So it's not perfect, but it's functional. So I did that. I'm thinking about trying the similar concept of the 30 by 10 inch rectangle using 10-inch granny squares and lining them up so that they're gonna make 30 inches by 10 inches, and then folding the squares. We'll see what happens. It may be a complete flop, I don't know, but I will definitely pop in a picture of the bag that I completed. Yeah, the color scheme was really cool. It was navy blue, yellow, and kind of like a variegated yarn that had white, navy blue, yellow, and green. So it was a cool concept of color. Didn't quite work out exactly the way I had envisioned it, but it's still, like I said, it's still functional. So yeah. Since I took a little bit of a break last week, I have 3 books this week that I finished, or this episode that I've finished. The first one was a thriller called It's Not Her by Mary Kubica. I've read some of her books previously, and I really like her style. In this particular story, 2 families are on vacation in at a resort in Wisconsin, kind of like, I guess you could say, like log cabin style accommodations. And during the night, one of the families is brutally attacked. The mother and father are murdered, and the teenage girl disappears. The other part of the family that was in a second cabin, the aunt, who is also best friends with the mother, and then it's her relation to the father of that family is brother and sister. They, being that they weren't sharing a cabin, were not affected by the crime, other than now the woman has to kind of sort things out with her 2 surviving niece and nephew, and trying to find the missing niece. There were a lot of things that happened in this story that just, like, when all is revealed as to what occurred, it really makes you think, like, wow, didn't see that coming. Something outlandish kind of contributed to the whole scenario in which the parents were murdered. It was very intense. There were some people that were involved in the search party that also had their daughter go missing years prior, and this situation kind of like re-traumatized them. It was just a pretty wild storyline, something that really could be like a ripped from the headlines kind of thing, because there's so much in the story that just seems very real. So it was a very interesting story, and the ending, like I said, just, it was very much a head scratcher. Like, you just kind of sit back and say, oh my goodness, like that's so tragic. And like, I'm just amazed at the stories that Mary Kubica comes up with, because like I said, they're just so realistic and believable. And I always think, like, as a creative, like, I wonder how she came to that story. So yeah, definitely one that I would recommend. Just so much stuff in there that I was like, wow, that's, yeah. Okay. And then the next book that I read was The Cure for the Common Life by Max Lucado. I particularly like his books. I was telling my husband about this one. For some reason, it feels like he writes books that I need at certain times. So I've read one or two of his books previously. The last one that I read was basically like how to cope with anxiety. This one, The Cure for the Common Life, is a book that he wrote in kind of trying to encourage people to pursue what they feel is like their purpose in life, and don't let like outside influences kind of distract you from what you really know is like your calling, so to speak. He is a Christian author, so a lot of what he discusses, he relates back to scripture and things like that. When he was talking about like following your passions in life and doing what feels natural for you, like I felt very much like he was talking directly to me. As many of you know, if you've watched before, I went to school to be an elementary school teacher, worked in public schools for a number of years, taught kindergarten for almost 12 years, and always felt like being in that space was where I belonged. Because life happens, like certain things prompted me to take a step back from teaching. But anytime I'm in a space where children are involved, people always say I give off like teacher energy. I've been asked many times, like, are you a teacher? Because I think you would make a really good teacher. And I'm like, well, I was a teacher, so that makes sense that you would think that I would be a really good teacher. I like being with children, watching them experience life and learn new things and figure out who they are as people, like what their strengths are and what brings them joy. It just kind of gives me like energy. The problem with being a teacher in the public school systems is you don't get to always do the things that make you feel connected to the students. There's just so much like bureaucracy in education that just makes it hard to be that natural, like nurturing person, which is part of why I stepped back from teaching and other things too. But anyways, to go back to Cure for the Common Life, he talks about like just recognizing what kind of keeps you going, what makes you tick, and following that. And don't like try to question it, because God has a plan. Now, I'm not like gonna preach or anything, but like I believe this too, that God has a plan for each person on this earth. Like it's not for us to kind of like question what we're supposed to be doing. Like if you just kind of listen and sit back and pay attention to what fills your cup, what makes you feel like you're doing the things that make you happy and doing the things that make other people want to be around you, like that's God's plan. I felt like my calling was being a teacher, but after reading this book, like I'm not saying that I don't think that's my calling, but I don't think that being in a classroom is necessarily the full plan that God had. After reading this book, I feel like teaching can take place on a much less formal scale. So yeah, this book just felt very personal because I'm kind of at a point in my life where like things are just kind of all over the place, and I feel a little bit like I've kind of lost my anchor. So this book was like the right book at the right time. If you're feeling kind of like you're just out there, you know, on the current, not really having any direction, this might be a good book to kind of pick up and just kind of feel like it will help you kind of like recenter yourself and kind of step back and assess like what exactly do you enjoy and what makes you feel like you've done some work and it just feels like the right place to be. So yeah, The Cure for the Common Life by Max Lucado. And then the last book that I recently finished is A Full Life: Reflections at 90 by Jimmy Carter. I like reading the memoirs of people that are like very accomplished and influential, and this one was definitely interesting, being that he wrote it as like reflections at 90. Like, wow, that's definitely a full life, and he definitely packed a lot into 90 years. I mean, if he lived to be 190, that was still a lot of stuff that he did. It's so interesting to read stories from someone's life that like just, like I said, just did so much, and he was, you know, from such a humble background. Thinking about like the fact that he was in the Navy during World War II and all the things that he did as a naval officer, and like accomplished so much with such a limited education, and his zest for always learning, and just like even at 90 felt like he still had plenty out there for him to learn. Like, I have so much respect for that perspective, and hope that I kind of keep that for myself as well, like knowing that there's so much in the world that I don't know, and kind of following in his footsteps of always wanting to learn more, and the way he always felt like he wanted to help people, and there were times that like he wanted to help people and he was struggling himself. Like, it was such a interesting story to hear. Like, he never really looked at his struggles as being like a hindrance or a burden. It was just the way life was, and he had so many obstacles to overcome, and just, I don't know, he just had this spirit about himself that like reading this book that he wrote made me realize how much I really wish I had met him. Like, I always thought years ago that like it would be so interesting to be able to sit down and like talk with him. So this book is kind of a substitute for that opportunity that I never got to experience. And he told great stories, and the way he spoke of his family and the respect he had for his parents, even though some of his ideas contradicted what his parents believed. Like, they never really argued with one another. They just knew, like, we don't share the same beliefs, and I respect your beliefs and you respect my beliefs, and they just kind of like, everybody did their own thing. That was very interesting to me. Like, he and his father really didn't see eye to eye on a few very important things, but they still managed to get along just fine. I admired the way he spoke of Rosalind. You could just hear like the love that he had for her. It was just a very well written book, and really illustrated things that made him a great leader. So yeah, definitely something that I would recommend for others to read if you want to kind of understand a little more of one of the great leaders of our country. And just, there were a lot of things in this book that I had no idea about in regards to Jimmy Carter, and just learning more about him really makes me hopeful that we'll get another leader that has the same passion that he had for leading, and the respect that he had for people. Like, it was just, yeah, just a really great book. What I've been watching, I'm going to start out first with what I went to see in the movie theaters. One of our local theaters does like throwback movies during the summer, and recently the throwback was the Goonies from the 1980s. I can't remember exactly what year. I want to say like 86. That is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, I just love that movie, and so when we saw that it was going to be playing in the theater, we decided to go take an afternoon and go watch it. Tim laughed at me because I got very emotional. Like, for some reason I always get emotional when they're down in the well and they're arguing about, like, we can't quit now, and it's just, yeah. So Tim was laughing at me because I was like crying in the movie theater. He's like, "You're crying? Why are you crying?" And I'm like, "Stop, it's my childhood." Like, he was totally like goofing on me so hard, but I love that movie, and it makes me like well up. I can't help it. If you've not seen the Goonies, kind of amazing, because like I said, the movie's been out for a very long time. 40 years. It's a very long time. But anyways, definitely watch it. Just, it's a very fun, like, adventure movie. Very throwback when it comes to all of like the idea of like these kids encountering like the band of bandits, so to speak, and like, yeah, I don't know, it's just very 80s. Like, these kids are like out doing stuff without their parents around, and like getting into some very dangerous situations. It was just fun to reflect back and like just remember like those feelings of like adventure, and yeah, because it's one of my favorite movies of all time. So we had a good time with that. Other than that, we've been watching our same old General Hospital. It'll be interesting to see how long Jocelyn is locked up and what they'll do, like how everything's going to unfold with that. Like, what is Carly going to think when she finds out what's going on with Jocelyn, and the relationship between Carly and Valentine is very interesting. The storyline with Curtis and all of that is kind of annoying, but we'll continue to watch anyway. Yeah, just like I said, the same old. We're watching Barbecue Brawl, which again, if you've been around for a while, you know I love cooking competition shows, so having a lot of fun with Barbecue Brawl. We usually watch the cooking shows when we're sitting down to eat dinner ourselves, so as we're eating our very amateur meals, we're watching the show of all these really delicious looking things and going, ooh, we should make that, ooh, we should try that. So again, just finding lots of inspiration from that show for different things that we want to try. We've not really worked with like much in the way of like meat besides chicken, like when it comes to bird. So when I saw them cooking with duck on the grill, I was like, ooh, grilled duck, that sounds interesting. Like, yeah, we should try that. So we'll have to see, like, if we can find somewhere that we can get some duck to grill. But yeah, it just, everything looked so delicious. And when we have an abundance of squash blossoms, we'll be doing some of the things that we saw with squash blossoms this past episode. But we really enjoy watching all of the cooking shows. We're all caught up on the series. It's the final season of The Way Home, and my mom also watches it. And so after everybody finishes the most recent episode, we sit down and discuss. And Tim and I like to try to like figure out, like, okay, what's going to happen next, like who's what and all of this and that. So we've been trying to piece things together to see if we can make guesses ahead of next week's episode. And my mom likes to just watch it and I guess be surprised, or let the show kind of reveal the details as it goes. It's fun to kind of talk with her and get an idea of like where she is in her viewing of the show, and like what she's getting out of it. And then we come in with our theories of like who's who and what's what, and she's like, oh, I didn't even think about that, like I didn't even see that. So it's kind of fun to just see the different experiences that everybody has when they're watching the show. Yeah, and that's pretty much all we've been watching. Oh, maybe not. Pop Culture Jeopardy we've been watching. Tim is always excited to watch like the most recent episode every week. I can tell you one thing, I'm much better at regular Jeopardy. The Pop Culture Jeopardy, I'm not very well versed at, so he is definitely kicking my butt on Pop Culture Jeopardy. So yeah, that is probably why he likes to watch it, because he knows more than I do when it comes to pop culture. If we watch regular Jeopardy, he's like, oh, you have all the answers that I don't have, and it's not fair. So yeah, we've been doing lots of yard work. My mom and Tim and I went to the local garden center and got some plants to put out. We put the basil in a planter out in the yard, and something ate up, I don't know if it was birds or ants or some other kind of insect, ate up all the basil, which makes me kind of sad because I really wanted to be able to have some basil. We'll have to see if we can like revitalize it since critters got the basil. We also got some mint. Nobody's touching the mint, so I'll probably be able to have some like limeade with mint in it, so I'm looking forward to that. We bought some rhubarb, and in doing our research we discovered that this year will not be a year that we will have a harvest of rhubarb, because you're to plant it and then your first harvest comes in your second year of having the plant. So we'll do all kinds of our research and get recipes for when we have rhubarb next summer. And we also have a few strawberry plants that I'm hoping will continue to spread and kind of have a decent little strawberry patch, so maybe we can have some strawberry rhubarb jam, things like that. But we'll just have to see how the evolution of our little garden goes over the next couple of years. There's tomatoes planted out there, cilantro, what else? Zucchini, cucumbers, hot and sweet peppers. So yeah, a little garden going on for us, and by the end of summer we'll have lots of delicious vegetables to consume. And then the other exciting thing for my little garden is that my parents' neighbor was getting rid of a wrought iron patio set, so my parents don't really have room for it at their house, So Dad asked me if I wanted it before he scrapped it, and I said, of course, that would be amazing. He says we'll just have to kind of refinish it, give it a fresh coat of paint. So I'm like, well, if we're painting it, can we paint it purple? And he's like, you can paint it whatever color you want. So my formerly black wrought iron patio furniture is now purple. And pretty much all of the other patio furniture that I had also got a nice little coat of purple paint. So yeah, Dad helped with that. Well, I shouldn't say helped, Dad did that. All I contributed was going to the store with him and picking out the color, and then we just kind of cleared out the shelf of all of that one color. So the color, it's a Rust-Oleum brand gloss paint, spray paint in the color grape. So it's not super pastel, but it's not like super like Crayola crayon, like deep purple. It's kind of like in between. So I was excited. It looks really cute. So yeah. I appreciate you taking time to watch my video. If this is your first time here and you enjoyed what you see, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to see more, don't forget to hit the subscribe so that you're reminded when new videos populate. And for those of you that are back again, I appreciate the support. Also, I've been seeing the numbers of subscribers kind of backslide a little bit, so if you've been subscribed for a while, you might want to double check to make sure that you are still subscribed, just in case somehow YouTube knocked you out of there. Not losing tons of subscribers, but I don't have very many to begin with, so any loss is a big loss. So yeah, trying to grow the channel, and I had like a little bit of a boost in subscriptions, and then the boost that I had, YouTube went through and took them away. So if you can get the word out for me and share this video or any of the others, I always make sure and have a video at the end to get you caught up on the end card. So if you haven't watched all of my videos, then check out some of the previous ones. I make sure to also include the link for the playlists from previous episodes. I try and drop all of my videos into a playlist to kind of keep them organized. So yeah, you can go and check out some of the videos that you may have missed in the past. And I'll keep on trucking and stitching and see what I can come up with for next week.